Look, she did it. She brought us live.
We are live today. This is welcome to Helping the Brave. My name is Amy T. Meyer. I'm here with my co-host Ed Parco, and we have John Colvin with us today. And we are going to just start right in on the conversation. So, welcome everybody. John, tell us about you. What branch of the service were you in, and when did
Why did you pick it?
And
why did I pick it? Well, I joined the Army. It was the absolute best branch in the.
Hold on, let me just start there.
So
my son's in the Army. He's airborne. All right, it's up in Alaska. He's a medic, so I have no issues with the Army, so you don't have to worry about that. I'm Navy. We have no issue with any services. We do the joking around. The reason I ask is because a lot of times people say, well, I went to go to the Air Force, and they couldn't do my job, and I walked in the Army, and they said they guaranteed it, and I went. So that's why we asked, how did you pick your service? So don't think we were picking on you. So.
No, so actually, that's a pretty good question. So I joined the Army out of Silverdale, which is actually a Navy town. And everybody expected me to join the Navy, but kind of like what you said, the Navy really didn't have the job I was looking for. I had, after graduating high school in '91, I went to tech school in Arizona at Universal Technical Institute for Automotive Diesel Technology. And the Navy really didn't have anything for me, and I really wasn't interested in working on big boats. And I have this huge fear of drowning, so the Navy really wasn't my place to go. The Marines actually were interested in me, but when I asked that one question, can you guarantee me the job that I want, they said no, and so then I went to the Army. So I joined the Army in '93. Traveled the world. 25 years later, I decided to call it quits, and I retired in 2018. I was a mechanic in the Army. That's indicative of my trade school that I went to. But anyways, while I was in the Army, I did a whole bunch of additional duties. One of them was the newest thing back in 2010. It was brand new, military resilience training, MRT. And at the time I was a AIT instructor, and they were grooming me to become an AIT platoon sergeant. And in order for me to become a platoon sergeant, I had to go through the MRT training. And that honestly changed my life. And that's actually what's led me into the direction that I'm going now, is that resiliency training.
For people who aren't in the Army and don't know that, can you explain that a little bit more to us?
Yeah, so resiliency training is really just identifying a new way of thinking. The Army likes to use the analogy of the tennis ball versus an egg, right? You drop an egg and the egg breaks. Well, that's a non-resilient person, and you change the way that they think, and you turn them from an egg to a tennis ball. So when they're dropped, they're able to bounce back. But really, it's just about retraining how you think, becoming more self-aware, understanding what it is that you're thinking, whether or not it's appropriate or if it's just kind of off the scales, and just kind of regaining the reins of your emotions and bringing you back into reality, I suppose.
And how long were you in before you went through that training?
I joined in '93. I went in 2010, so that's 17 years.
So they finally thought you were finally ready to think a different way. I know I'm trying to be a jerk, but I'm just like, that's, so, and you were in for 25 years. So that meant you had another, 10 years or so, 12 years of doing it. So.
Yeah. So in 2010, like I said, I was an AIT instructor. They were grooming me for platoon sergeant. And every assignment I had after that, I was either a unit MRT leader, or I was in charge of the battalion or brigade level MRT program. But it was it was truly a life-changing experience.
Just because how you looked at things differently, or how?
Oh yeah, it completely changed. By day 3, I was already a changed person. And the first exercise that you go through is what's called hunt the good stuff, and hunting the good stuff is try not to divulge some secrets here, but everybody, the negativity bias is something that everybody faces every day, and basically that's negativity bias is basically a negative viewpoint of the world. Everything's out to get me, and when you start doing what's called a little exercise called hunting the good stuff, and words have meaning. The reason it's called hunt the good stuff is because it's, when you're hunting, you're alert. You have situational awareness, and you have a specific target in mind. And so when you're hunting the good stuff, you are doing just that. You have to be situationally aware, you have to be self-aware, and you have to have a target that you're hunting for, and that target is anything that's not negative. And for many people, that's a pretty difficult thing to do. But by day 3 of just hunting the good stuff, finding good things around me to focus on, it truly changed my outlook just in 3 days.
Wow.
Nice.
Amy, anything?
So
Hunt the good stuff?
Yes, I often have to hunt.
Can you get rid of those dogs? Whose dogs are those?
Those are mine.
Oh, I say they're moving around upstairs. I thought for sure they'd be like bounding because I was in another one earlier today, and I mean the whole place shook because of what they're doing upstairs. So I'm like going, okay, this is my studio. Stop that. Anyway, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to say I almost expect Luna to like get up and look for the dogs, but it's not Luna. So
yeah. Well, that's what happens when we're at home, right? Doing these things. So
yeah, somebody just knocked on the door, so they're going nuts.
Yeah, must be a package or something.
Probably.
So John, so you shared with us, how long you've been in the military, kind of what you've done. Talk to us about how you transitioned out. Do you
hold on. I want to stay where we are, if you're okay. I want to know more about how this changed your life and how you used it going forward, if you don't mind. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Amy.
No.
I just think it's a good topic because we haven't heard about this before, right? Amy, have you?
Nope.
Yeah.
I mean, did you have it when you were in the Army?
Resilience training? No, I didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah. So really, it's prior to 2010, I was on a. I was just floating along, if you will. I kind of aimlessly, my intent was to retire after 20 years, and I was almost there. And I just really had no real motivation to do a whole lot of things. And there were a couple of other things that happened. One, I got married to the wife that I have now, Isabella, and so she's also a huge positive impact on my life. But the I was not in a good place mentally at the time, and I just had no real care. I just come out of a deployment in 2009, and I had just PCS'd from I just transitioned. I can't say transition, but
I got the PCS.
Okay. Yeah. So I just left.
We understand those acronyms. We're not civilians.
Okay. So I just PCS'd from Fort Polk and spent 9 years there. And
hey, I only spent 2 weeks there, and that was enough for me. So
yeah, 9 years was so you can understand I was not in a good frame of mind. But
Amy, do you know where Fort Polk is?
Louisiana.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's if you're there visiting, not doing JRTC. Visiting, it's a great place. I mean, you can't walk outside and not step in a catfish hole. And I mean, deer are everywhere. So I mean, it's a great, it's truly a sportsman's paradise. But for those that are stationed there, especially those in a what is it, 509th, the Op 4 there, as well as those that are going for JRTC, it sucks. And then the weather as well. You can't cool off in Louisiana. But so I just wasn't in a great state of mind. And when I went to MRT training, like I said, in 3 days, my entire outlook on life changed just because I started focusing on the positive. And then as we started delving into the course, which is actually taught in University of Pennsylvania, the Army's MRT course, it's kind of a blend of several things. One of it being University of Pennsylvania course in their psychology degree program. and it also came from bits and pieces of Crew Military. Are you familiar with Crew Military? Campus Crusades for Christ created a new chapter, if you will, called Crew Military, and so they also had a hand in developing the MRT program. And so, anyways, as I'm going through the course and I'm understanding how or why I'm reacting, or in many cases overreacting to situations, and understanding that it's really my thinking patterns and it's my core beliefs, and understanding how all of that ties together, and receiving some strategies on how to mitigate a lot of those things. By the end of the 2-week course, that's all it was 2 weeks. I had a complete different outlook on life. I was an introvert, still am, but far worse then. I was able to actually get out on my own and do things on my own before the end of the course. I went to Patriots Point. This was in South Carolina. I went to Patriots Point, man, it was huge for me because I had a hard time just going to Cracker Barrel, and here I am now traipsing out to, went to Patriots Point, went to Fort Sumner, did a lot of those things by myself. And it was all because I was able to kind of change the way I thought, kind of understand some of the thinking traps that was keeping me from, enjoying life to the fullest.
Now, is it because you were like an NCO at the time? Is that why you went there, or is that what they do? Is it just for anybody, the MRT class?
Yeah, so it was because I was an NCO, and the MRT class was a requirement for to become an AIT platoon sergeant, and it's also a requirement for drill sergeants and several other leadership positions.
Yeah.
Can you volunteer for it
No.
if you're an NCO but not in one of those groups?
Can you? When I was in, you could. I don't know if you can now. Most right now, when I left in 2018, the MRT training was. Back in 2010, MRT was only at Fort Jackson and University of Pennsylvania. Those are the only two places you could go. Now it's at every installation. And so now there's enough MRT trainers to where every installation, in fact, every brigade on every installation has their own MRT training, and they do their own classes.
Very cool.
Yeah, that's the first time I heard of that. So it seems like it's a really good program to help people along the way, especially, changing the way you thought from where you were to where you are, just in a few days. So.
It's very effective. When it's done properly, it is extremely effective.
Okay. All right, Amy, go ahead. Ask the question that you had. I'm sorry.
So have you used, what is one thing that you use today that you learned from being in the Army?
Well,
we can always come back if you need to think about
it. There's so many things.
He's only been out for a short period of time, so it's got to be everything.
Yeah, well, I was a mechanic, and so I work on my own vehicles. My wife's too. She cracks the whip every now and again when she's got something to do or wants me to do. But I would say nearly every aspect of my life, in some way, shape, or form, I use something that I've received from military training.
All right. So as you transitioned out,
mm-hmm.
right, and you've been out how long?
18 December. Well, my actual final out date was December 8th, 2017, but my retirement date's March 2018. So, but yeah, since December 2017, I've been out.
Now, I hear it's different for people retiring versus other people getting out, and you're transitioning out of the military. Did they help you transition?
So I can honestly say that SFL TAP, the Army's transition program, is excellent for anybody who is not retiring. For those, and rightly so, because you have more people ETSing or being involuntarily separated than you do actually retiring. And so the largest number of people utilizing the SFL TAP program are your E4 and below, and so it's really geared toward them. And the what do you call it? The not transition of sense, but the job placement. That is excellent for E4 and below, because a lot of the people that coming to look are all entry level, but for those that are retiring who've got 20 plus years, for me, I was used to leading 70 folks, having 16 direct reports. There wasn't a job available for me through that program because everything was entry level, so it was pretty difficult to get even to find an employer that was interested in me, because all the employers there were really looking for entry levels. The other issue was the resume program, resume writing. Excellent resume writing program. Learned a lot. I got several interviews out of the resume writing program, but the one thing that they didn't cover was how to write a federal resume. And the difference between a civilian resume and a federal resume are completely different. A civilian resume, you're looking at most 2 pages, and preferably only one. But a federal resume, you're looking between 5 and 7 pages. The federal resume, you don't write down bullet points. They expect paragraphs for what you did, not just duty descriptions, but also your accomplishments. And there's a specific format for those federal resumes, and that's basic. It's touched on in SFL TAP, but it's really not covered. And again, that's mostly because it is geared toward those that are getting out in an entry-level position, as opposed to those that are retiring and trying to get into a leadership position.
Interesting.
I have another question, if that's okay, Amy.
Yeah.
I think I'm asking all the questions. I apologize. All right. So when you were retiring, did you plan to the retirement, like your transition out? Because most of the people we talk to, they look at transitioning. I'm going to be getting out in a year. This is my plan. I'm focusing on this. I'm doing this. Is that how it happened to you, or was it just one of those things like, I'm done and I'm getting out?
No, I had a plan, and like all great plans, it didn't come to fruition. But
they say life is what happens to us while we're planning our life.
Absolutely. No, I actually had a plan, but I would say that my plan was not realistic. I was looking at, getting a job as a fleet maintenance manager, and that's what I did for 25 years in the Army. And, that was an easy transition, only to find out that there's just as few fleet maintenance managers in the civilian world as there are in the military. In fact, there's probably more in the military than there is in the civilian world. It's a really, it's a tight market to try to get into. And I will say that I had some really good transition counselors, and they helped me to kind of focus less on fleet management, maintenance management, and more on maintenance management as a whole. And through talking with them and kind of getting a feel for the civilian market, I came to the conclusion early on that maintenance management, whether it is fleet maintenance, whether it's manufacturing maintenance or facility maintenance, it doesn't matter. If it's maintenance, the fundamental of managing that maintenance program is the same. You still have resource management, you still have personnel management, you still have work order management. It's all the same. So the only thing that's different is the equipment you're working on. And once I was able to understand that, then I was kind of able to broaden my search. And that's really when I started getting a lot more hits from my resumes, and got a lot more interviews and, several jobs.
What did you end up doing when you got out? I assume I should ask, the job you got out when you first got out, is that the same job you have now, or have you had different jobs?
No. So the first job, when I got out, it was kind of one of those things, my wife said, get a job, you're annoying me. And so
With
I
love,
went
of
to,
course.
of
Right.
course, absolutely,
Yeah.
yes.
I'm just not used to you here all day long. Can you go do something?
That's it. That's kind of the conversation. But no, I had a friend of ours. She was starting uh, a construction company, and so she needed a lot of help in administration, and I have a lot of experience in administration. So I kind of helped get her kind of get off the ground. I wrote her safety SOP. I helped her in her contract writing. I did a lot of her accounts payable, accounts receivable, and things along those lines. And I worked with her for about 5 months until I found what I thought was going to be my forever job, which was working for Advanced Technology Services as a manufacturing maintenance planner. And I did that for 2 years. I loved the job. I hated the environment. And I hated it mostly because it was not what I was used to in the military. And so I had higher expectations for the job, and then I really had, or that I was experiencing. And again, a part of that was because it was a civilian job, not a military job. And so a lot of the things that I was kind of, in the military, everybody, I won't say everybody, but you have a lot of cohesion, where when you get done working, you go out and have a beer, you go out on the weekends, and there's just a lot of cohesion. And it's not so much so in the civilian world. I mean, the people that you work with, after they get done seeing you for 8 hours, they don't want to see you again until the next day. They don't really want to go out and party. They don't want to go out and, barbecue or this, that, and the other. And so there's really not a whole lot of cohesion there. And so I kind of missed that. And I started doing what a lot of people do when they get out of the military. And I started hunting for a better job. And I'm one of the things that I don't think is necessarily helpful, that the military trains us for, I suppose, is zero stability, right? We're always on the move. We're always moving. I mean, you spend 3 years in one place and you're off to the next. So you really have no stability. You really don't know how to set down roots. And so when you retire and you try to set down roots, it's something that I just didn't know how to do. And so I left that job, went for a better job, better paying job, more responsibilities. And I lost that job. We won't go into details, but so I lost that job. And so for like the last 6 months, I've been unemployed. But not because I can't find a job. It's because I've been looking for the right job. And, I've done a lot of self-assessment, done a lot of, reflection, and I can understand why I wasn't satisfied with those 3 jobs. And, it all boils down to no stability. I knew that when I got to a place, 3 years later, I was going to go somewhere else. Even Fort Polk, spent 9 years at Fort Polk, but in that 9 years, I deployed 3 times, right? So really, I only had 6 years at Fort Polk, and within those 6 years of being there, I was constantly in the field, So I never really had more than maybe 4 months, 5 months of actual time on garrison. So even in that 9-month stint, there was no stability there, And so trying to understand how to develop a mindset to create a stable environment, especially a stable work environment, has been a little challenging.
We never had anybody talk about that before, right? We haven't, have we? I mean, I look thinking back of all the issues. I don't think anybody's talked about the fact that you're gone all the time and how you have to get used to being in the same place for a while. And
it's a good thing to
think about it. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for being so transparent.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm the only one.
Yeah. And thanks for not really talking long. I'm just kidding. No, it's funny because people get on here and they're like, I have nothing to say. Yes, you do. Just let us ask you questions.
I was going to say, so John, my favorite question to ask people is how they volunteer. And before you answer it, I know how you volunteer, but or if you volunteer. And so just share with us, like maybe your favorite ways to volunteer, because him and his wife are very much volunteer holics like myself.
Are you going to let him talk, or are you just going to keep going?
I prefer her to talk. No, so yeah, we do a lot of volunteering, and in fact, the 6 months that I've been unemployed, I can't truly say I was doing nothing. I spent that 6 months volunteering, but my wife and I started our own nonprofit called Heroes Challenge, where our number one program is just an annual seminar that we fundraise for throughout the year, and then the first week of June, we send, last time we had 67 families with a total of 89 people, men, women, and children, to Cannon Beach, Oregon, for that weekend, that Friday night, Saturday night, and Sunday. And in that weekend, we focus on a holistic approach to healing. If you have a family where the father or the mother, or even sometimes both, are suffering from military related trauma, that trauma is passed on to other family members, and so you can focus on the dad, or you can focus on the mom, but if you don't focus on the family as a whole, then you're really doing them a disservice. There's not going to be any true healing. You have to do it as a family. And so that's kind of what we focus on that weekend is we get the kids have an awesome program they go to. The parents, when they give up their kids, the kids go to, they have their own curriculum. I mean, it's all faith-based curriculum, but they have their own. And the parents on Saturday, they have two different classes that they go to, an hour each, and the rest of the time pretty much is family time. And of course there's some other meetings there involved, but it focuses on the family as a whole. That way, the children can understand why mommy or daddy, or sometimes both, is acting strange. Why mommy's always mad, or why daddy's always mad. Why, and to let the children know that, it's the feelings, the emotions that they're feeling from this is normal, and kind of give them some coping skills. And then, of course, the adults as well. And then we also collaborate with another nonprofit, Project New Hope, that my wife, she's the director for, and she sets up retreats for not just the families, but also for individuals. So you have, a women's group, or you have a men's group. Sometimes you have a couples group without the kids, but we set up retreats for that. And so we volunteer with them. We right now, probably my most favorite, because it's the least time consuming, is I'm the treasurer for Thurston County Veteran Services, and they provide the what do you call it? They provide programs for veterans in need, maybe paying rent, or, helping them pay for, vehicle repairs, or something to, when an emergency happens and they need a little bit of help to kind of get them back on their feet. That's what we're there for. And we also provide temporary housing for homeless veterans. And so those are just some of the things that we do for volunteering.
I think you found your job.
Seriously, and he didn't.
I mean, the retreat thing sound. I mean, the one with the family, that sounds amazing. You can make we should. If I would have known that, we could have started talking about that from the beginning, and then talked about your journey. But I'm just saying that's that's huge. Giving back to vets, helping the family. Anything you ever need, let me know.
Oh, thank you.
And
I'll just send you to Amy.
Okay.
Well, and he volunteers with AUSA with us, and he
I do, yeah.
He is a self-proclaimed idea fairy squisher.
Yes, I kill good idea fairies.
Yeah, you mean bad ideas?
Well, that's what they end up being, but
yeah. whatever you want to call them. No, because that retreat thing, I think that's something that a lot more families need nationwide. So that could be something that could get pretty big. So,
Well, and I will say Sage and I went, and it is faith-based, and my family is not a faith-based family. I don't know how else to say it, but we felt very included, and it was amazing to be able to, because I actually brought my grandson, and to have him be taken care of, and Sage could do her thing and I could do my thing. And it just happened to be, I think, the last time my husband was on a work trip.
There you go.
So, which is funny anyhow, but so tell us anything else that you think. So when you volunteer, do you use a lot of things that you learn from the military in that aspect as well? Or do you find that like there's a civilian world, a volunteer world, and an Army world?
So one of the things prior to retiring, I did a lot of analysis, and I kind of talked to a lot of folks that have retired, kind of just sat back and looked and watched. And one thing I noticed is that a lot of retirees, they like to, or they identify themselves as military. And so they struggle in the civilian world because they still identify with the military. And they're two completely separate worlds. I mean, so I knew that once I retired, if I didn't separate myself from my identity as, Sergeant First Class Colvin, then I was going to struggle like everybody else. And so I've tried my best to separate, Sergeant First Class Colvin from, civilian John Colvin. And in some ways it works, some ways it doesn't. But I think that's number one important, is separating from the military. I have to, that season of my life is gone. It's okay to miss it. Sometimes it's okay to grieve it. And it's always great, every now and again to go down memory lane, but that life is over, and so now it's time to move on and focus on the future. But I do use some things from training, we will, MRT for one, the class that I teach in the Cannon Beach, that is truly, it's a stripped down version of MRT, kind of civilianized in some ways, got rid of a lot of the military speak, but the fundamentals of it all is MRT. So I bring, and I think it's a great marriage, MRT with have you heard of the Combat Trauma Healing Manual?
I don't know. I've heard of it, but yeah.
So my wife and I, Isabella, we are very good friends with the writer of that Combat Trauma Healing Manual. And the guy who wrote it actually helped write the Army's MRT program. And so prior to retiring, I ran a peer support group here in DuPont, Washington. And we used that Combat Trauma Healing Manual. And I found that, MRT and the information in that, the training, the Combat Trauma Healing Manual, it was a great marriage, and it was easy to kind of bring them together and to help people understand why things are happening, or help them to understand how to change thinking patterns and thoughts and whatnot, and then combine that with that healing manual. And so I took aspects of both of those and then wrote my own curriculum for the Cannon Beach deal. But that's one thing that I brought from the military. The other is, of course, work ethic. It's one of the mantras I had in the military, and I just can't, I won't let go of it, is don't put off for tomorrow what you can get done today, and so my wife is always trying to get me to, stop and do something else. And, I don't want to put it off until tomorrow. And so, that's one of the things I brought over. But yeah, definitely there is a military life. There is a volunteer life, and then there is, a personal life.
First thing I gave up when I got out was the time.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Just did regular time like everybody else, because whenever time I said it, people had no idea what I was talking about.
Right.
Have you? We also talk to people and they talk about how it's different when you get out being direct, right? We're so used to talking direct, and
Yes.
and people don't like it. They get their feelings hurt when you tell them. I was at lunch with a guy today, former, not that Air Force is a real military, but Air Force guy, and he was saying the same thing. It was like, yeah, people don't like it at all, and it's hard, and especially when you're a father. You do it to your kids sometimes too, and that's just, we're so used to getting to the point. Here you are. That's what we're trying to tell you so we can correct it. And it's not always the best thing to do. So.
My very first email that I sent, so while I was in, I briefed a lot of commanders, and I would always start the email with 4 letters: Bravo, Lima, Uniform, Foxtrot, bottom line up front, right? Here's the problem, or here's the situation. Here's the problem within the situation. Here's some ideas that we're going to use to fix it. Which ideas do you like the best? Let me know, right? Quick, simple, easy. Give them all the facts, no fluff. So my very first email ever sent was actually sent to I was working for the construction company, and it was sent to a property management person who had just sent some work orders and needed some information on them. And so that's basically the format that I sent, right? No fluff, just here's the facts. And I received a very stern talking to after that email was sent, because it was too direct, and the lady that I sent it to was extremely offended. And so after that, for like 7 months, my emails were proofread before I actually hit the send button. So yeah, I completely understand. Sometimes we're too direct.
Yeah. Anything else you want to add, Amy, or anything else?
No, I think I think I've shared this before. Like, yeah, Travis Manning, honesty was my first character strength, and like it just went down. And my friend in the office, he's like, it just says veteran to me. And I think to some degree it is what it is, and we do need to be kinder and considerate and different things like that. But sometimes directness is a.
And I say, I don't think we don't need to be, I think we're all kind. I just think we're so used to getting to the point to make their life go do what you need to. Here's what I need to know. And then you can go do what you want to do. Get it out, get it done. Then they can go do what they want instead of wasting their time. I think it's a fact of we're trying just to not waste time, right? Get it done, get it out. And a lot of people, I mean, Amy and I was at a conference a couple of weeks ago. It was called Speakeasy, and we'll just say that. And there was a guy that was talking about eyebrows and how people are and how they want to talk about it. If you have round eyebrows, they're used to helping everybody else. So when you talk to them, talk about everybody else. Well, prior military, we're like, here's your thing. I'm going back to my desk. Right. There's none of the talking about there's no small talk and all that. And that's what we're used to doing for years. That's how we learned. And it takes a while to fix that. If we ever fix that, I still have issues with it today. So,
yeah, I still have issues myself, but, I completely believe in candor, and, you got to be honest, and you got to say how it is. And sometimes, somebody doesn't want to hear it, but, maybe they need to hear it. So, I still have problems, trying to figure out when to be less candid than other times.
Yeah. So I'm in the mortgage industry, so it's all about being direct. Here's what you can do here. There's no sugarcoating it, because that's not what they want to know, what they can do and how to fix it. If there's an issue, move on. It's the same thing. So medical field works well for us. Mortgages.
Maintenance actually works pretty well too.
Yeah. No, and it was nice to get to know about your other stuff that you do, and the retreat. If there's, if you want to come back, talk more about that. If it becomes bigger, we want to get it bigger. Talk about. We would like to have you come back.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah, for sure.
And if your wife's a better speaker, we can talk to her. That's okay.
She's a much better speaker, and I think she's next week, isn't she? Or she's soon.
Probably. I'd have to look to verify, but yes, she probably. I did invite her to speak as well, of course.
Yeah.
And I don't think. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to say she's a far more eloquent speaker than I am.
Yeah, that's all right. You did really well, so I don't want to hear it. So, I mean, one of the other things we've had people on, they talked about military pass, say SOPs, just like you said. Why help her write your safety SOP, right? Most people don't know what an SOP is, let alone what it stands for. And so I think a lot of military bringing that into businesses to help companies grow by setting up policies and procedures and everything we need to do that they're not used to, because that's not there, and that comes from an organization like the government and the military. So. I think I think all veterans are great to be part of any organization. And if you're hiring, you should hire veterans. I don't want to say over civilians, but I'm just saying they have attention to detail. They know certain things. They work ethic. On time is 10 minutes early, right? On time is late. We're used to that kind of stuff. And, it's a good thing. So I appreciate you telling your story today.
Oh, thank you, Ed. Appreciate it.
So I'll wrap us up. Thank you also, John, for coming on. And if you're watching us on YouTube, please hit the subscribe button. And thank you, everybody, for watching our podcast today.
Before we go, I also want to say we're always looking for additional people to be on our show. So if you have a story and you want to talk about it, please reach out to us at info@helpingthebrave.com. Or if you know anybody, please send them our way, and we'd like to have them on the show.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
See you right there.